Good day, Kennedales. Jeff Navarre is with the Kennedale News, and I appreciate the summer off from all you guys, and I had a great summer. Had a great summer with the kids, relaxed, and blew off some steam from my early and late spring, all my enterprises that I had to do. But I am back, and for all the new people who are following us on Facebook, welcome. And you'll get some video news coming up for Kennedale coming up for the rest of the year. But I just took a little sabbatical over the summer, and as you can see, I got a really good tan line. So you'll see this space a little bit more. For now, the biggest news in the city right now is back to school, and I know parents are just as excited as I am, except I'm losing my oldest babysitter. But besides that, my electric bill will be very excited next month when the kids go back to school. But for right now, I have Mr. Gee, the superintendent of KISD, just to answer some questions and back to school questions that I have. And most of these questions were reached out by your audience, by you guys. So if you have questions, go ahead and send it to Kennedale News, and I'll make sure we get some of those answers for you. But for right now, how's it going, Mr. Gee?
It's going.
All right, back to school, right?
We're back at it tomorrow, that's for sure.
We had a crazy end of the year. You and I have had a crazy couple years now, but the end of the year last year was the whole Arthur debacle and what you guys were going to do with it. So now we're at the beginning of the school year. What's some of the new policy changes? And obviously, let's talk about the temporaries.
Not really policies, but just procedural things that we're looking at putting in place. One would be the clear backpacks at the secondary campuses. We announced that as part of the dress code now and as moving forward.
And what's the age group on that?
6th grade through 12th grade. So, and I think we discussed that at length at the end of last year, and that's one thing. The other thing would be that we will be starting our elementary students before we start our high school our secondary students next year. So to allow our buses to be able to have time to maneuver in different places and to help parents with, getting their young kids to school before they have to get to work. So those are some of the considerations we looked at and took into place procedural-wise. Another one would be the drop-off areas and pickup areas. We are going to say basically, at the end of the school each day, we had a situation in the year last year at Patterson where we had an ambulance that needed to get in. We had parents that were backed up all the way around it. We couldn't get the ambulance or the police in. That's a safety violation.
Absolutely.
So we have to sit there and ensure that we can get emergency vehicles into our campuses, and we are going to require that parents not start backing up, an hour and a half, 2 hours beforehand for the end of the dismissal at the end of the day, particularly at our elementary schools. But it does happen on all of our campuses. That 30 minutes before, and if you're there before that, you're going to be asked to move.
5-minute parking basically before that.
So we're going to have to sit there and have, we have visitor parking for a reason. If you need to pick up somebody, you pull in a visitor parking and go in this campus. But as far as staging and more than 30 minutes, that will not be acceptable because like I said, we had an issue last year. And then the other thing, sorry, refresh my memory. You had a topic you wanted me to discuss.
Tuesday and Wednesday, though, parents can bring their kids, correct?
So the first 2 days of school, especially at our elementary campuses, I know parents like to drop off their students and they like to walk them into the building, so we will be allowing that for the first 2 days of school. About 30 minutes into it, we will be saying, visitors, it's time to leave so we can start the school day. But I know that that's an exciting moment for parents, so we want to accommodate that and get back to it. We kind of moved away from it in COVID days, so bring that back into play, but it's only going to be for the first 2 days of school. And
that's good news that you're starting to bring back some policies pre-COVID. I think a lot of parents will like some normality or bring something back. Like, for example, for sports, they're still waving at each other. I miss the old good game. I really, really wish they would bring that back.
I said UIL, their requirements. We got governing agencies for everything, so they all set out these rules. So it's interesting. So.
Okay, so back to school, and this is mostly for the younger kids because the older kids have been going, if they're in sports or band, they're at the school pretty much all summer.
We go pretty much year round. We had summer school right as soon as the week after we stopped school. We started summer school. We had more students in summer school than we've ever had, trying to accommodate for House Bill 4545. Felt like our staff did a great job there. It was pretty hectic and chaotic to start off with. Just a lot of kids and a lot of moving parts. We just came off of finishing the school year right into that. Then we had like the makeup testing or the retesting with the STAR over the summer. So
my daughter passed. Woo! She was happy.
We all I can't brag on our staff enough for what they got done. Our central office people, our HR people, processing some employees, tutors to be able to sit there and run summer school that weren't in our district that we had to process very quickly. Everybody did a great job pulling it off and making it happen. And then we had our summer camp, our strength and conditioning camps with our junior high through high school students. And
new volleyball coach this year as well.
New volleyball coach, coming off, just a good summer, I think of workouts and everybody getting ready. And so band, they're back early and they're out there working every day and every morning, every night. So they said our secondary kids don't leave for very long. They're pretty much here.
Yeah.
And our staff, our coaches, and our sponsors. So.
And that's how it should be in high school. That should be an open door all summer.
It's always
keeps my kids out of trouble. That's for sure.
It's always busy. That's for sure. So, yeah.
And then I want to compliment Mr. Cagle and his staff after the year ended and doing the retesting, because my daughter had to do that. But they were also figuring out how to do the scheduling for all that too. And I just saw how hard they were working on that. So I just want to make sure you heard from me. Big compliment, Mr. Cagle and his staff, for doing that last summer.
They've had to have a lot of parent meetings, and I think at the high school they facilitated 645 parent meetings. So that's a lot.
That's a lot.
I don't think people understand the legislation that comes down, that we don't dictate this and we don't create it. It's dictated to us by our legislators. And House Bill 4545 created a lot of concerns and issues and problems that we had to overcome. And our staff did a great job. Last year we tried to accommodate it all during the school year, but then this summer we tried to touch on it and make sure we got as much of it done as we could. It's just those mandates that come down that you got to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let's talk about staffing for a little bit, because obviously, COVID has put a little bad heart on some of the teachers. A lot of them have moved out from teaching to go into other careers. There's a teacher shortage nationwide right now. But I know you were hiring over the summer and offering some good benefits. How we ended up in the beginning of the school year? We lost a couple vice principals and things like that. How are we doing to fill in those spots?
Right now we are, 5 teachers short.
In the whole district?
In the whole district.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Actually. So we're in pretty good shape, and we're, I hate to make reference to other districts and say we're in far better shape than a lot of other districts, but I feel like we're in far better shape than a lot of other districts. Our staff, as I said, they do a phenomenal job of getting people in, getting them onboarded, getting them hired. Our personnel staff and HR staff have done, Ms. Williams and Ms. King and their people have done. You have no idea how many people they've processed and brought in and got interviewed and
sure.
Set up background checks and paperwork, and so like I said, it's been quite a summer.
Yeah, congrats.
But,
that's definitely an achievement.
As I said, we feel like we're in a better shape than a lot of other places are right now. And the ones that we had, we had a teacher that she resigned last week. One of her family members had a health situation, and
sure.
she had to move out of state to go to help take care of them. And there's not a whole lot we can do about that, and that's kind of been what we've faced over the last 2 years. I don't think I would ever say that I would have to deal with teachers walking off the job, but over the last 2 years we've had to deal with that situation where we just simply had teachers walk out.
Yeah, and that's not unique to KISD either.
That's not unique to us, but
it's nationwide actually.
It was unique in our profession. You don't see that very often. Not in this size district and not in most places, but I'd never encountered that before. But we had it far too often last year, and people were just dealing with a lot, in their personal lives and their families. You had people who were able to work from home, all year long, and teachers weren't.
Yeah.
And that created some issues for the teachers, that they weren't real comfortable coming back into classrooms.
Yeah.
They weren't real comfortable, being told that they had to work whenever other people weren't having to work from home, and that was trying for people. And some of them just decided that this was not the profession for them. Other ones decided that they were ready, it was time to retire. With all the mandates and everything else that were coming down, it just seemed like an endless amount of mandates. We had, all the scrutiny that public education came under with our legislators and everyone else pointing fingers, and the back and forth between what schools are doing, what they're not doing, and what they should be doing. We're just trying to educate kids.
Yeah.
And our teachers are just trying to educate kids, and we do it very, very well. And I think a lot of people just got really, really fed up. And
Well, it takes a unique person to be a teacher, and so if they're not feeling like they need to be a teacher anymore, that's probably best for everybody.
Yeah. And they some people call it the great retirement, the great.
I call it the exodus.
Resignation. I call it the great realignment. I think people just really start
I like that.
Prioritizing what was best for them. And a lot of people decided that they needed to try other careers and try other districts.
Or it's time to retire. Like we lost Mrs. Clark, but she deserves a good retirement.
And I think we've done a good job of filling the spots that we had. So.
All right. So that was it's too short. Okay. And then so you still have Arthur. That's going to be till next year before we see that. So you have still a principal and staff, but they're just split up. Like what? How's that going now?
Well, everybody was like kind of nervous when we were talking about moving Arthur in the first place, and moving to different campuses. Everybody was, the teachers and the staff were like, "We're gonna have jobs. We're gonna have," and I was like, "Hey, we're gonna have sixth graders. You're a sixth grade teacher. You're gonna have a job. We got fifth graders. We got need fifth grade teachers. You're gonna have a job." So I think that kind of quelled itself. But then, where's everybody gonna be? And I think that was a bigger one. Because this year we split the fifth grade back to the campuses a little bit sooner than we were going to.
Yeah.
So we had to split staff and figure out where everybody was going, and I think we had a very good process for that. Dr. Vu and Ms. Williams and some other people did a great job of figuring out, what certifications people had, what levels of certification, what grade levels they matched with, and moving people into those positions. And for the most part, they worked out pretty well. We gave a survey to our teachers to kind of see where they wanted to go, and for the most part, I think everybody got where they wanted to go. Now we've had to, because of situations with shortages, move teachers from one campus to another that necessarily weren't going to be there, but now they are. So, but other than that, I think we're set.
Okay, and that actually kind of leads to the next two questions I have, which are your questions, Kennedale, that you reached out to Kennedale News to have us ask the school district for you. One of them was the concerns of our too many students. So one was about the new apartments that Arlington has approved. There's 3 of them right in our district. And then the open enrollment to allow students outside of our district to enroll here. Can you cover both of those? Like how?
Yeah, I can. I mean, I've already met with both of the apartment managers and trying to assess how many kids we might be getting out of them. I believe we'll get more students out of the one here in Hammock Creek than we will out of the one that will be over off of Joplin Road. But for the most part right now, they say at Hammock Creek they will not be booked out or leased out until for at least 4 months. And then they started already, and they've already started moving people in, but they said it'll take them at least 4 months to get leased out. I tried to ask, what kind of predictions we went for. The similar one over in Arlington, and they gave me some numbers, but it's hard to predict if you go off the 10% rule, which is what we based it off of. We may get quite a few numbers out of the Hammock Creek apartments. They have 200. I'm trying to think of 212 units.
Somewhere around, yeah.
And if you're looking at 10%, that could be, 20, 30 kids if you're looking at units, but depending on how many kids per there, it's really kind of hard for us to tell, but we are working with them to kind of gauge, how many kids are coming to us in our bus routes and all of that. The other one I know right now, Alta, I think is what it's called. They have, I think, 2 kids that are, school age that are signed up there, and whether they come to us or not, if they go somewhere else, we have no idea.
Yeah, a lot of people are doing private schools or homeschooling. That's actually a huge increase since last year.
And that's that's something we see. We're also seeing a large number of kids coming back from homeschool and from a private school and charters. So it's kind of a balance. And we have an ebb and flow every year. We have the kids that come back to us, kids that new to the district, and we have the ones that leave the district. And so it kind of always washes out. And so that's kind of what.
And you have seniors leaving, but you have new kindergartners coming in. Yeah, there's little nuances. And even if you had on a worst case scenario 30, it's not like it's all 30 second graders. they're spread out between all the ages, so it's really adding 1 or 2 per class.
Yeah,
Maybe.
and that's where I said it's hard for us to predict, exactly how many students, what grade levels are going to be in, what attendance areas they're going to be in. So I do know that Alta will go to Patterson and Hemet Creek will go to Delaney.
So why open enrollment then? Which a lot of districts do have open enrollment around here. I know Arlington stopped it for a while, but I think they brought it back. But those numbers aren't too big that we get from outside the district.
When you look at our numbers over the last, I'd say 8 years have been decreasing over enrollment. And if you keep looking at the numbers that are enrolled right now, by the time we get to high school age, our high school could be down to 700 students by the time it trickles up to the high school.
Sure.
Everybody's worried about us being 5A, at the high school. It would take 300 students enrolling at the high school for us to be considered 5A. That's not going to happen. So I don't know why everybody, gets all worked up about, things, but because the enrollment numbers are just based off of the high school for your UIL classification. And the high school right now sits at around 1,000 students. The cutoff for 5A is 1,300. So we're well below that number. And we're not going to add 300 high school students to the high school.
Yeah.
In fact, in the open enrollment, I think we've had, maybe 20 applicants, but we've had some that have applied for the younger grade levels that, aren't open right now. So we have designated what campus is open in the high school we feel like has room to add students. So that's why we went to high school.
Okay.
Now, once we open Arthur back up, which like you said, should be hopefully next school year, it better be next school year. We ain't gonna go through what we did this summer again, So anyway, but it will be next year when we open up Arthur and we pull the pre-K through the first graders onto that campus. Then that gives us more room to reach out to Delaney Delaney and Patterson to open that up there and start building some of our younger grade numbers, because those really where a lot of our numbers have dropped off. Our high school numbers have stayed pretty consistent, but our lower grade levels are where we've seen a lot of the drop.
And I think you and I have shared the nuances of those numbers, and you guys watch it as they go through the grade levels and how they increase or decrease over the years. And they're pretty normal across the board, no matter what school you go to. Like you said, it's 10%. That's a pretty good average, and even with city growth and things like that. So it's not, these things, basically, is what you're saying, are not extraneous to the abnormal or the normality of everything.
Now, I know there was some, conjecture of, Magnolia Hills now opening the second one. I can tell you that I went through with the developers, got the addresses, I turned that over to our team's coordinator, Lisa Walsh, and she ran the addresses and found out how many kids we had that enrolled from that first development of Magnolia Hills. We have 7 students.
Yeah, I knocked on those doors when I won your election. There was only a handful of kids over there.
Three families, and I think we have 3 at the high school and 4 at the junior high school. So it really has not had a huge significant impact on our enrollment, at this time. And so that's why I feel, when they're asked, what about the second development? I said houses. I'm more concerned about multifamily where we got, multiple homes, coming in, and what numbers that brings, because we have no way to predict that. But
Sure.
They're looking at 10%. There were 110 homes in that first development. 110 homes, and we got 7 students.
7 students.
So that's kind of where we.
So basically, stop using that as an excuse, guys, for the ones that are against the developments. You're always saying the schools. But it's not the city's concern, but the school's concern is to fulfill those needs if we need it. But so far, not bad.
And I will say, our junior high, the numbers that are at the junior high now are some, 5th grade, that's rolled to 6th grade, and
Yep.
They're rolled to 7th graders, some of the lowest numbered classes, the smallest classes that we've had, so we feel pretty confident with them moving up. We may have to touch on the junior high in the future, but that's that would be in the future.
Yeah, and I've heard this might be some plans for expanding the junior highs, but we won't talk about that yet till it firms up. But I've heard maybe some new buildings over there, guys. So they're on top of it.
I will say this, and this is something that I think our community, this is probably a good time to start talking about it. Our buildings are aging.
Yeah, they're old.
And they're all getting older. And we've done, I think, a phenomenal job of trying to pay off our bond debt, sooner. We should be bond-free or debt-free by 2027.
Hey, I like that.
But but the reality is we haven't had a bond in this district since 2004. And our buildings aren't getting younger, they're getting older, and they age and they wear, and some of the stuff is outdated. And having science labs that would be, more up to date would be very beneficial in our junior high school, and maybe adding a wing on there or something, But these are considerations. We have done a lot with our fund balance to touch on a lot of the projects. We're building safety vegetables out of vestibules, out of fund balance. We've touched on some of the other projects out of fund balance, but there's only so much we can do out of that, to keep our buildings up to date.
Yeah, especially with the cost of buildings going up right now.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll go down by the time we're ready to do this something. So it sounds like, there was a lot of cogs going for you this year, just a lot of complications. It sounds like you and your staff are on top of it. So it just kind of leaves one topic that's the hot topic right now in any school system, which is, school safety with school shootings. Mansfield had that incident last year, and they did a really good job on getting the students back to their parents afterwards. I know we're looking at what they did so we can implement that here. And then you had a safety meeting last Friday with staff as well. What are some, is that it? Or is there more things that you're gonna do?
I think this is one of the things, I will be speaking to the chamber on Wednesday, and I'm going to outline state of the district and go through, the things. But I don't think people have realized, from 2019, since I came into the district, how much money we have spent on safety improvements. And that's over $400 and something thousand.
Sure.
$76,000 that we have spent on.
Thank you, COVID. Thank you, COVID.
It wasn't COVID. These were things that we were putting in place before. But, the reality is we've spent quite a bit of money. Once again, that money isn't in the general fund. That's money that comes out of other places, which would be the fund balance. But those were necessary things that we put into place. And as far as the training that the staff went through Friday, that was alert training. That's required by the city of Texas, and that's the stuff that was mandated by Governor Abbott. And, excuse me. I know when you have that kind of training, and they're focusing on Uvalde, and I believe everybody that did the training saw the videos from Uvalde, and there were a lot of questions that come out of that. And
well, yeah.
And the reality is that we can train and train and train and train. The reality is our people have to sit there and keep doors locked. They have to monitor the ability. And, it's going to be more of a changing culture. Education has notoriously, that's not going to happen to us. And, that's not going to be something that, that happens over there, but it doesn't happen here. That's not the mentality you take anymore. I'm going to say this, and it's probably not going to be very popular, but, parents want us to open up our campuses, but yet they want us to harden them too. Yeah. You can't do both.
Yeah. And we don't want to make them prisons either.
You don't want to make them prisons. Yeah. And I get accused that, I'm trying to, Gee's trying to make them prisons. No, I'm not trying to make them prisons, but we're just trying to find some happy medium with everything.
Sure.
And the reality is you can't have it both ways. There's got to be give and take. And, if we're a small town, and we want a small town feel, and that's one of our big things, a small town feel, big time appeal, and that's what we want to appeal to our families. We want to appeal to other people who want to move here. And, the reality is that you can't harden, because our politicians say we need to harden schools, harden schools, harden schools. Well, prisons are supposed to be some of the hardest, locked down places there are. And they bad things that happen in prisons every day.
Somebody got arrested last week for drone drops.
We are never, never going to be able to, harden schools the way they need to be to protect them, because bad people are going to do bad things if they want to do it. And, we can only, try to prepare our people. I believe we've hired a incredible director of safety and security, Mr. Sproul. He came from Mansfield. He went through the situation at Timber View. He was right in the middle of that. Since he's come into our district, he's been very proactive about creating reunification processes.
And his experience is phenomenal.
His experience is phenomenal. We've already had, I think, 3 district safety committee meetings, which are required by law, and we've been doing that. We have another one this week. And then from there, we will, cascade that down to our campuses. They will have their campus safety committees, which, we've had those in the past, but I think honing those in more with the teachers to be on those. But I think the biggest thing is just an awareness. And, I know another mandate that came down that we had to, but we were already doing it before the mandate came out, and that was basically checking all of our doors and making sure all of our doors are secure and they shut right, and all that stuff. And we were already doing that, but then it became a mandate, and then now you got to turn in a form and everything else to sit there and show that you did it.
Thank you, government.
And these are the requirements I go back to. It's just mandate after mandate after mandate, and I get it. Some of it, is necessary because there are districts that aren't doing it. But I feel like we are being very proactive. We have been being proactive in safety and security since I came into the district. We brought in this and got rid of all the keys that we had. We brought in cameras, more and more cameras. We have updated cameras at the high school and the junior high school. We have safety vestibules that are going in. I think I said it right that time. Vestibules.
Yeah.
That are coming in at all of our campuses, and that's a significant expense to sit there and put into place, but it's necessary, and when we reconfigure Arthur as the Early Childhood Center, that's going to be way more secure than what it is right now.
Because you're building it that way.
Because of the very small children that are going to be there, and they're your most vulnerable population, because you're not going to be able to sit there and evacuate them as easily as you would other students. So, these are all considerations that are coming into play. We've looked at traffic patterns and trying to make our traffic safer. Talked with the city about getting sidewalks, built off of.
We're getting sidewalks, guys. They're coming by Delaney.
To make traffic safer. Our bus routes, we run extra bus routes because our kids don't have safe passage to school. So, these are all things that we look at continuously, and I think, as we're moving forward, we're going to continue to do so.
And then this is for extreme cases, but this is also for just simple cases. And I think we have a good scenario here, and I know you would agree, is our new chief, Chief Ogeen. He was the safety and security officer here. So he's familiar and helped, with some of the policies and works well with your new safety security officers. So if something does go on, I think we're in a perfect storm of people who know what to do, basically.
And I feel like we're in a much better situation with the city, with the city manager, Mr. Hull, and with Chief Ogeen, as far as communication between us and them. I feel like, we have also reached out to them and to other agencies. Mr. Schmuel has to sit there and say, hey, you're in our area, swing by our schools and just stop by.
Like Arlington for Patterson. Yeah.
Exactly. We have a police officer, Mr. Schmuel is very familiar with over there, that, he's a motorcycle officer, and I think he's, been doing it for 40-something years and still riding a motorcycle, and he's got a grandson that goes to Patterson, and we said anytime you're in the area, stop in, and we're reaching out to that area of because they have divisions, I think, or sub areas.
Yeah, they do.
To basically, officers want to stop by. Same thing with our Kennedale officers. Want to stop by, stop by. Sheriff's office want to stop by, and come visit the school, and just having presence.
I think in the end it also starts with parents, and I know you won't say it, but I'll say some of the policies, especially the backpack policies, coming out of the high school, because your kids were acting up at the end of the year, and I've heard all those stories from my daughter coming out what was going on. So in the end, it's up to the parents too to help keep our safety secure.
And I think this is a misconception. Just because we implement a backpack procedure, or not a policy, I won't say policy, but a backpack protocol, that's not the end all be all.
No, it's not.
And people want to, well, if they want to do, well, you're right. And I must say, we can put 8-foot high fences around every campus, but if somebody wants to jump an 8-foot high fence, they're going to jump an 8-foot high fence. You're not going to keep bad people from doing bad things. You're just going to sit there and try to deter them from doing those things.
Well, and my understanding of the clear backtracks was not for prevention, but to get the students back into class if there was an issue faster, because they would have to check every backpack and every locker, but now you can kind of one-spot it as you walk by.
It gives more of a sense of security to our staff.
Yeah.
It
Safety
facilitates things faster. Students are less inclined to bring things they shouldn't be bringing, and even if that's vape pens or if it's cigarettes, or cigarettes are kind of outdated now. Everybody, these kids want to do.
That's true. It's vape pens.
It's just, you'd be amazed that, we were going to bring it all the way down to the elementary level, and we had a bunch of backlash on that from parents, and the reality is there were younger kids, that bring things in their backpack that necessarily shouldn't come to school, and maybe if the parents saw what their kids were bringing to school, some of that would stop as well.
Oh, on the way out the door, you look at the backpack. Yeah.
So,
what's that?
I think I think it just helps everybody. And we'd already implemented this with our games, and we'll be following through with that even more at our games.
Yeah, and we're not the only ones, guys. We're not the only ones.
It's been going on.
Yeah.
If you go to any college or pro game, you're bringing in a clear backpack or a clear bag, and that's just our society now. And I think people have to get accustomed to that. And, I realize we're school, but I just said earlier, you can't have it both ways. You can't, want all these freedoms that, but yet you want to harden the school too. That it doesn't mesh. And so we're trying to find balance with everything, as we always do. Try to accommodate our parents and let them be part of their kids' school environment and school lives. But on the same token, there are things that we're going to have to put in place to help ensure that. We need the help of our public, we need our community, and we need our parents supporting it.
Yeah, Midlothian has a clear backpack policy, and this applies to the games after. My mother had to go put her purse back in the car because it wasn't clear. And that was last week at the volleyball game. So we're definitely not the only ones doing that. And it looks like it's pretty much going to be district-wide or across DFW.
It's going to become universal all over the place.
They threatened it when I was a kid. Now it looks like we're going to go through it.
But like I said, I feel like we've touched on so many things over the past 3 years to make our schools safer.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue to do so.
Well, like I said, Mr. G, it was a lot on y'all and you and the trustees' plate this last 6 months. A lot of cogs going. It seems like you and your staff are on top of it. Any message you want to give the parents for the school year?
No, we had a really great convocation last Friday. Had a great, welcoming our teachers back. They've been working all week, and they've done a phenomenal job of trainings and just working together, moving towards the things we want to bring to our district. I gave the analogy, pardon me, gave the analogy that we were on these train tracks moving forward, prior to COVID. And then on the day of COVID, it got really blurry and really hazy, and then we had to take a hard right turn off of the tracks that we were on onto the COVID tracks and kind of get established over here. But at the same time, we were making everything continue on this tracks as we were trying to navigate this one over here. We're still putting into place our systems and all the things that we're bringing in, our curriculum, alignments, protocols, all those alignments along the lines. Those are all things that were being done behind the scene that people didn't necessarily see because everything was focused on COVID.
Yeah.
But even with the COVID, it was like the tracks got very windy and curvy and didn't always know if we were heading down the right track with that one. But now we're getting back on our normal tracks that we were on, and I feel like we're ready to just take off.
And things like that were reactionary, but things like security you guys have been working on since pre-COVID. Like these are policies that we fine-tune every year anyways.
We've been working on so many things that, people, it's all behind the scenes, and none of it's, I call it, none of it's sexy enough that people, pay attention to it or whatever, but, I've had a few employees come up and they're like, the vibe this year is very good. Last year was rough. I'm not going to deny that. We had a lot of people in my convocation speech, I said a lot of people were doubting, why they were doing what they were doing, and could they continue this? They couldn't see their why anymore, and really, our why has never been clearer to me. Public education needs people who want to sit there and fight for it and stay in it, and public education needs champions, and our kids need champions. And our kids need us more than ever.
I like the way you put it, the great realignment. Yeah. That's probably exactly what our education system kind of needed to get a fresh start. Yeah. All right, well, there you have it, Kennedale. Mr. G, we have a new school year, so that would be tomorrow. Make sure that you understand the new rules. Tuesday and Wednesday, you can walk your kids into the school. After that, you may not. And make sure you don't start staging out in front of the schools, especially Patterson, until 30 minutes before the school's out. One last quick question. This is from the students, actually. Why the change in the times?
Change the times. Well, I think I addressed that at the very beginning of the interview. We have young students, and parents have got to get to work.
Yep.
And if they can't drop their students off, and unfortunately, some parents would drop their students off with nobody, at the school, and that was problematic. And so, one, to help I'm sure this is coming from high school students.
Yes, it is. They're going to 8 o'clock now. They're like, why?
I had a feeling it was coming from them because I had some of these questions in my superintendent's cabinet with the students. So, our young kids can't get themselves to school. Our young kids, don't drive. They don't have rides. They depend on their parents to get them there.
Can't walk.
They can't walk. So, that was one of the issues. The other one was, quite honestly, our secondary staff a lot of them have young kids, and how do they get their kids to school and get to work on time? So, that was creating issues for our secondary with for our principals trying to staff, especially morning duties and stuff. So there were multiple reasons. The other thing is so many scientific studies have come out and so much research that older students do much better when they start later. And when you have
I do.
you have your first period and you have 800 and something tardies, and then the rest of your periods they're in the hundreds. That's an issue. And so our kids got to get to school on time. They got to get here, and they've got to be involved and engaged in their lessons. And so we felt like that was better for our older students. So.
All right. Well, there you have it, Kennedale. I will be doing a follow-up interview for safety and security, Mr. Spruill, hopefully next week. So we'll have some more information about that for you guys. I know there's some staff questions and there was some parent questions. So I'll make sure I get more thorough detail with him because he's the man in charge of that. So look forward to that video. Hopefully next week I'll arrange that. But for now, welcome back to school, guys, and we'll see you around. This is Jeff Navarez with the Kennedale News.